Where did Eigengrau come from? Growing up, I lived in a small town called Yuma, Arizona, and I think what is common in small towns, especially in America, and especially specifically at the time that I grew up in, like post 9/11 recession era, is that there was a lot of undiagnosed mental health around me. As a kid, you don't necessarily understand those things. You sort of just soak up your surroundings like a sponge. But there was a lot of adults, a lot of kids my age, a lot of my peers that were sort of really, really going through it around me. But they were sort of on their own because people weren't having those conversations then. In middle school and in high school, I always found myself gravitating towards, darker creative materials. And maybe it could have been because I was surrounded by so much of that. It was sort of my brain's way of trying to understand it. But what I ended up doing, I was drawing a lot. I was writing short stories. I'd be in like math class, like not able to focus and just drawing monsters in my notebook nonstop. One of the concepts that always fascinated me was the idea that everybody had their own monster. And then also the idea that somebody could see them when no one else could. And a lot of my kind of early doodles in school reflected that concept, that somebody could peer into the world alongside our world and see the monsters that we all create in our heads. So that was a concept that I've had with me since middle school, since high school. That's something that I was always doodling and playing around with in my mind. Fast forward to the tail end of college, me graduating from film school, and I wanted to make my first feature film, and I wanted to take some of those concepts that I had sat with for so long and do something with them. So I wrote and directed Run for Your Life. I went back to my hometown. I went back to the school that I was at when I first came up with these concepts, and I did a lot of filming around there.
But I'll start from the beginning.
There's a lot of me and a lot of my early life in that movie. But I was a young filmmaker. I wasn't necessarily any more well-versed in mental health than I had been, even in high school. So I didn't necessarily have the tools to say what I wanted to say then. You fast forward 10 years later, and I've been living and working in Los Angeles. I've been making films this whole time. I've been getting better at telling stories as a whole. The conversations around mental health have grown enormously since I was a kid, and so there's a much, much greater understanding of what's happening in our heads. I now feel more prepared than ever to go back and dig into some of those original ideas that really affected me growing up and actually do something more powerful with them. And so that's what Eigengrau is. I get to kind of take all of these life experiences and wrap them up and then deliver them into what I think will be a very intense and very powerful horror film.